Once upon a time there was a man and he had these two children. Yeah, there was a boy and his name was Hansel and there was a girl and her name was Gretel. And they lived in the house and they were very happy. But the father, he was not so happy because he was a man and he was alone. And as we all know, the man needs the cookie. So there was no cookie because his wife, she has died when she was giving birth to these two boy and girl. So the man is no cookie for maybe 4 or 5 years. Very sad man. Well, he's very poor, so he cannot go to buy the cookie and he cannot attract the very nice cookie. So he goes out and he finds a woman who has willing to give him the cookie if he marries her. Because he does have the house and the woman, she has not the house. But the woman, she has the cookie. So this is the arrangement. Well, the woman, she is not a good woman. And even though she has the cookie, it is not a sweet cookie. Because she has not a sweet heart. She hates the children. Oh, she hates them. She cannot stand them with their noise and their giggling and their crying and their emotions. She hates them. So she tells the husband, if you want the cookie, you must get rid of the children. We are so poor. We can hardly eat food. We can't afford the children. If you get rid of the children, it will be better for us and you will get the cookie. So the man, despite his fact he loves the children, he takes them out into the forest, the deep dark forest, and he leaves them in the forest. But the children, they are very smart and they find their way home again because he did not take them very far. And the mother, she is very unhappy. She says the children come back and she says, oh, if you think you're getting the cookie now, my friend, you are very much mistaken. No, you are going to have one lonely schwanz is what you're going to have. The children, if you find a way, take them deeper into the forest. Take them so deep in the forest, they will never find their way back. And the husband says, yes, this is what I will do. And the children, they are smart children. And they are listening. And they hear the plan from the stepmother. So they make a plan of their own. They say, Hansel says to Gretel, we will make a plan. We will make markers in the forest so we find our way back ourselves. And Gretel says, I know. We take a roll of bread and we pick apart the crumbs and drop the breadcrumbs and find our way back. This is what we will do. And this is what they did the next day when their father takes them to the forest. He took them so deep in the forest, deeper than they had ever been. And they dropped here along the way the breadcrumb trail. But the father has taken them so deep in the forest that the birds have eaten all the breadcrumbs. Well, the father says, oh, look, children, there is a mushroom. Why don't you go pick the mushroom? We will eat it. And the children turn around to pick it, and the father, he ran away, leaving the children. The children are very scared, but they look for the breadcrumbs. But they are not there. What are the children to do? I tell you what the children are to do. They walk around a lot, poking at things with sticks, picking flowers, destroying plants. You know how children are. Eventually, they go around a tree and there is a house. They go up to the house and it is not a normal house. It is not a Cape Cod made from the wood. It is not a little cottage made of the stone. It is not a Richard Nutra made from the aluminum and steel and glass. No, the house is made from gingerbread. Yes, the kind you eat with the whipped cream on top. Gingerbread. Und the roof has the frosting on it, and the gumdrop chimney, and there is the panes of sugar in the windows, and there is candy cane fence on the outside. It's amazing. The little fountain with chocolate, the whole thing is candy. Well, they are starving because they have been wandering around wrecking things for a good 3 or 4 hours. So they are starving hungry, and they go up to the house and they break off a piece of the house and they begin to eat. It tastes so delicious. Oh, the house is so good. But in this house there is a witch. Witch lives in the house. And she comes out now. And she says, "Who is nibbling on my house? And she sees Hansel and Gretel, and she catches them in her hands. And she says, "You will eat my house? I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to eat you." And she put Hansel in a cage. He cannot get out. And she makes Gretel, she puts on the ankle bracelet that gives her a shock if she tries to get out, that she got from the government. And she makes her clean the house with the broom and the scrubbing the floors and the cleaning the windows. And Hansel, she gives all the food and the candy every day, so much candy, so Hansel will get fat. And the witch says to Hansel, "When you are good and fat, then I will eat you. I will roast you in the oven with the onions and the potatoes and eat you. Stick your finger out of the cage. I want to test to see if it is fat and plump and juicy." Well, Gretel is very smart, and she gives Hansel a stick of the wood, and she says, "Put out the stick from the bars of the cage." When the witch, she asking for the finger, and she will think you are thin. So this is what Hansel does. And for many, many weeks, the witch, who does not see so good, she comes to the cage and says, "Hansel, give me your finger. I want to see if you are fat." And Hansel puts out the stick of wood, and the witch feels it and says, "Oh, you are so skinny. I will not feed you any more vegetables, only the pasta and the hostess cupcakes for you." And then one day, the witch thinks to herself, "He should be fat by now. There is something going on." And she asks him to stick out the finger, and he puts out the stick of wood, and she grabs it and breaks it. And says, "Aha! I thought so." And she reaches in the cage, and she squeezes his man boob, and it is fat. And she says, "Now is the time to cook you and eat you." And she says to Gretel, "Get on the oven. I want to cook the Hansel and eat him with the potatoes and onions, and maybe I have a light salad with a little vinaigrette and half of an avocado." Well, Gretel, she has to build the fire in the oven, and she throws in the wood, so much wood to make so very hot enough to roast the human flesh. And Hansel is very afraid, but Gretel says, "Do not worry, my brother. I am not going to let her eat you. If anyone's going to eat you, it's going to be me, and I am a vegetarian." But she goes to the oven and she says to the witch, "Mrs. Witch, I have built the fire, but there is something wrong with the oven. It is not hot enough. It would not even bake the pie. So please, can you look in the oven and tell me what is the problem? I am 4 years old. What do I know from ovens?" So the witch, she goes to the oven and says, "Oh, children, you have to do everything yourself." And she puts in her head and says, "I cannot see a thing wrong with the oven." And Gretel says, "I think it is the filament for the electric plug in the back." And the witch, she looks in even deeper. And when she is looking in almost all the way in, Gretel pushes her from the bottom And the witch, because witches are always top heavy for some reason, she loses the balance and she falls into the oven and Gretel slams the door and locks it and the witch goes up in the flames of the oven. Right up there, through the gumdrop chimney. Gretel lets Hansel out of the cage and they go running out of the house. Now, if I had been these children, I would have stayed in the house and lived there for the rest of my life and eaten the house piece by piece. And this would have been a good life. But no, they go back to their father, who is very happy to see them. And when the woman, the stepmother, she complains about the children coming home, the father says to himself, you know what? The cookie is not so good when it comes from a bitch. But children's, they can work in the field, so I keep the children and I find some other cookie. Or I take care of things myself. And the stepmother leaves the house for good. And the father and the children, they live happily ever after. Even though the father was kind of an asshole there for a while, causing the children later to grow up and have to spend hours in therapy. I think there are a few of us who could spend some hours in therapy.